Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a bit of a different one aside from my usual Sea of Thieves content, and I'm going to be talking about Dragon Age Origins. So first of all, I love the Dragon Age series, and of course with Dragon Age Veilguard just around the corner, I think it's probably quite a good time to start getting the making content about these brilliant series. So, I played Inquisition quite a while ago and I loved it, so I decided recently that I would start to play Dragon Age Origins, which is one of the earliest games I've played on my Xbox. I believe it's a 2009 game. And if I'm being honest, it was a masterpiece. It really didn't feel like a 2009 game, and it was absolutely exceptional. And I'm going to really go over why the game is so exceptional and why it is still worth it in 2024, and why you definitely should play it, either if you haven't, in preparation of Veilguard, or if you have and just replaying it again. So, first of all, the story is absolutely exceptional. It's quite a short story. It took me about 20 hours to complete the game. I did do it very fast. And there are four main components of the kind of main part of the story. And that's the Orzammar questline, the Dalish questline, the Redcliffe questline, and the Circle of Magi questline. Now, the Circle of Magi questline is quite a short one, as is, in my opinion, the Redcliffe questline, although they can tie into each other potentially. The Dalish one is relatively short, and the Orzammar one is by far the longest, in my opinion. At least it took me the longest. All four of these are beautifully well crafted and kind of give you a great introduction to all of the different races and characters and groups in the game. I think it does this really well, and it really gets you involved in kind of the politics and the geopolitics of all of these factions. You get to really influence how it happens, not just getting their support, but also influencing their worlds. So you get to influence who becomes king, for example, in Orzammar. You can side with either the werewolves or the Dalish. And it really is just a brilliantly well-crafted story in terms of the main plot. And obviously after this, then you go and you meet the nobility, you meet Loghain, who's kind of the main villain of the story. And you get to meet Queen Anora, who's personally one of my favourite characters. And I think, well, she was my option to be queen, with my warden ruling as prince consort. And I think the main quest line is really well done. Now, I'll move on to characters quickly, and I will have to say this. Morrigan and Leliana are two of my favourite characters that I've encountered in any video game, is in terms of companions especially. The companions are really fleshed out. You get to learn a lot about their backstory, and the companion system in general, with all of their dialogue and the amount they can influence the story, it's probably my favourite companion system that I've seen in any game. The relationships in the game are very well crafted. Leliana's and Morrigan's obviously the two I kind of went for, and that was very, very interesting. It was a very well thought out, well crafted story. And I think the characters in general all have their unique stories, they all have their unique backstories, and all of them react differently to different situations and different choices. So Morrigan, for example, is quite selfish and basically thinks you should do the very selfish kind of profit gaining way, whereas Leliana, for example, and Alistair think you should go down a more compassionate route, for example, and kind of disagree with doing things that are very immoral. And there are obviously ones in between, and there are ones further and whatever, but it's really well done. I think it's done much better than Inquisition, and I think it's done better than other games with companion systems like the Fallout games. I think the companions in this are much better, and I love Fallout, so take of that what you will. So honestly, the characters in this game, they're so well crafted. Even the kind of side characters of the non-companions, the Arls in the game are really good. Loghain, you don't see much of him, but he is a very, very compelling character, and you kind of almost sympathise with him because he, just wants the freedom of where he's living rather than, to be just an evil guy for no reason. He's not just evil for the sake of being evil. He has kind of good intentions behind it. And Queen Anora as well is personally one of my favourite characters in the game. I think she's done really well, and I think it's how you show a very strong character. She's politically very smart. She's very, very adept politically. She seems like she'd be a good ruler. She's kind, compassionate, a very, very good character, and that's why I think is when I went as a human noble, the Kuzlan story, that's why I obviously picked him to be the prince consort, and I think it would be a very, very cool thing to see. And it's a shame though that it's not really carried over in Inquisition. In Inquisition, it's kind of overlooked. You see Anora, I believe, alone or with Alistair, but you never see the hero of Ferelden in the game, which I guess is just because people haven't played Origins, and so it would make the story maybe a little bit convoluted. But I think they should add it, and I hope they kind of mention it in Veilguard. I hope you'll be able to kind of see maybe what your choices lead to. So I think the characters in Dragon Age are where it really shines. The characters in the story are by far the two best parts of the story. They have not aged at all, because obviously great storytelling never really ages and great characters don't really age either. But honestly, it's so well done. I haven't played the DLCs yet. I'm just talking about the main game here. And the main game characters and storytelling was so well done. All the little side quests you had to go on, they didn't feel like fetch quests. I never once felt like I was going on a fetch quest just to do something to unlock something else. Everything was done with purpose, and I think that's kind of the biggest compliment I can give it, because so many games, Dragon Age Inquisition, for example, for Fallout games, all of these games kind of feel like you're going somewhere just to get something, to do this, to do that, to go and get something else, and it feels very fetch questy. Whereas Dragon Age Origins did not feel fetch questy. All of the quests felt kind of unique, they felt compelling, and they had their own story. Even ones like we had to go and get the Urn of Sacred Ashes, for example, that didn't feel at all like a fetch quest. It just felt like a very, very well thought out separate quest, which would end up leading you to a different point in the game, which I believe was to save the Arl. And it's done so well. I honestly can't give it enough credit. The characters are exceptional. They're just, for me, in terms of ranking of the best characters I've interacted with in a game, they're probably just below Cyberpunk's characters. I obviously played Red Dead, but you don't really get to know the Red Dead characters as personally outside of cutscenes. So I think the game's incredible. The game's characters and storytelling is incredible. But enough about the good. There is a bit of bad to it. Maybe this is because I didn't understand it fully. But I do think, and it is a 2009 game, you have to cut it a lot of slack there. I've played Red Dead 1 and that had poor combat as well. But it is obviously the combat system in the game is very, very dated and it's not great. It doesn't really hold up well now. You can't really... I'll be honest, I like games where I can do stealth, I can dodge, I can kind of weave my way out of situations if need be. The big issue with this game is dodging does not exist. Dodging is non-existent. You can't dodge anything at all. Once a character's locked onto you and doesn't attack, it's going to do damage no matter what. You can't duck out of the way. You can't dodge. There's no stealth really in the game. There's a kind of really minor sections of stealth in the game, and that does annoy me a little bit. And the combat itself, again, you're not timing your attacks, you're doing nothing like that. You click A for Xbox, which is what I'm on, so I don't want the controls off for PC or PS5 or 4 or whatever, but you just click A and then you attack and it keeps going, and that's it. And you can do abilities and use abilities, etc. Tactics was something I didn't completely understand in the game, which is probably why I found combat harder than maybe I should have. But I do think the combat is dated, and that's the one flaw I would give with it. The world itself looks very good, and this is probably the only thing that's well worse than Inquisition. Inquisition's combat is much better. The healing system's much better in Inquisition. I think it's done much better in that respect. But the world in Inquisition is probably nicer as well, I would say. The world is obviously meant to be kind of more lush and more beautiful in Inquisition, especially seeing Orlais, which is kind of a jewel of the Dragon Age universe in terms of how it looks. And obviously Ferelden is the poorer part of it, so it looks a lot more run down, but it still has a charm to it. The game is visually very good for a 2009 game. The cutscenes are a little bit glitchy and a bit laggy, with a little bit of low quality, but that is to be expected with old games, although I don't think it took away from the experience. And so I do think that on the most part, this game really doesn't feel dated. Red Dead felt kind of dated when I played Red Dead 1. This has a feel of the Walking Dead games, the Walking Dead Telltale games. I've played all of them, and some of them, I believe, from 2010 and 2012, and it feels like that because it doesn't feel dated whatsoever when you look at it visually, and from a storytelling perspective. The game just doesn't feel dated. The combat is that is all I would say is bad. Another thing I would say, a very minor nitpick, is when it comes to relationships between characters. For some reason, being nice to a character and increasing their kind of relationship level will instantly trigger or lead to them kind of assuming you want to enter into a romance with them, which is a bit awkward for some characters, especially, for example, Zevran. You had to try and basically up his approval to stop him from attacking you at a certain point in the game, but because you up his approval, he thinks you're into him, which is a little bit awkward, but that's a really tiny nitpick I have. Overall, the game is very good. There are a few glitches when it comes to that. You can, for example, glitch it and keep Morrigan and Leliana at the same time. I actually managed to do that completely by accident. And there are other minor glitches, There were a few crashes I experienced, and there are a few times where I got stuck. But apart from that, it's a very, very good game. In fact, it is as polished as you would like for a 2009 game. It does deserve all the plaudits it gets. I think it's such a brilliant game. I can't really recommend it enough. When it compares to Inquisition, where would I put it? And that's really tough. Honestly, I do think it probably is a bit better than Inquisition. Inquisition I've put 3-4 times the amount of hours into. I've put way more into Inquisition. I really, really did love the game. But Inquisition, I had to take a massive break, multiple massive breaks from the game, just because the game drags on. Origins, the story is perfect length. It doesn't drag on. I don't feel like, it's rushed. I don't feel like it's slow. I think it's perfect. It's done just perfectly. Maybe it could have been a bit longer, but that's fine. Inquisition dragged on, and I was getting annoyed that I wasn't making progress to the end of the game. So I do think probably it takes the edge of Inquisition in that. I also think across the board, the voice acting in this game was absolutely exceptional. Anora, Leliana, Morrigan, to Alistair Logain, Altiman, all of these people were genuinely acted incredibly. It was done so well, and all the voice actors put so much into it, like in this scene here.
With my future betrothed at my side, how could I worry?
The voice acting in the game, like in that clip there, it's funny, it's amusing, it's humorous, it's tactful, it's witty, it's just brilliant. And obviously the voice actors and actresses do a brilliant job of conveying that. And I think all the characters in general in the game are just really well made. There's no character that you instantly dislike or like for a particular reason. They're all left very up to you and your canon and very morally grey. There's no character really that's evil or brilliant. All of them have good and bad. They're very complex. And this is one of the things I think was lost in the later games and in later games in general when it comes to RPGs. This game had a certain charm to it and a certain care with the writing that a lot of modern games do not have now. And I think it's a real shame we've lost that. But obviously it shows in this game how absolutely brilliant it is and how absolutely brilliant the dialogue is. That is the shining light. The dialogue, the characters, the relationship between the warden, that is what makes this game absolutely brilliant. And this game is a masterpiece. As I said, the combat is poor, but apart from that, this game is an absolute 10 out of 10, and I'm so excited for the next one. It is going to be hopefully amazing if it's anything like this. But anyway, a bit of a different video to usual, a bit of a long video on Dragon Age and my thoughts on it. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm actually going to be making more Dragon Age content in the future, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.